So when it comes to the network engineer role, we can pretty much divide this up into two categories. We can divide this up into what I like to call traditional networking, and then also the more modern type or the more evolved type of networking. Where with the traditional networking, this is where we see where the job description may be asking for a lot of CLI experience. You may be doing a lot of manual configurations. Your updates may be manual. You still must know the routing protocols and everything that evolves around networking. But with this one, you're more hands-on with the equipment. So meaning that you may be actually going to the equipment, configuring it, or you may even have some sort of software that can push out some updates or push out some configuration changes. But for the most part, you're still in troubleshooting on that command line daily, where every day one of your first things you're doing is logging into the command line as you get calls for issues that's going on the network. A lot of times you're logging into this command line and you're figuring out those issues. I like to call this traditional networking. So this is pretty much the school where I grew up from. So with my experience, I never had a chance to interact with a lot of modern technologies that we have out here today. So my background is more this traditional range, to where you still see job descriptions looking for this type of network engineer. You know, most of the time it's going to be those smaller jobs, those smaller organizations, meaning like a local hospital. A lot of times your local town, you know, the government jobs. A lot of times, sad to say, but a lot of times they're the last ones to update all of their infrastructure. So they're going to be still on that traditional type of networking, where you may be more hands-on, dealing with the CLI on a daily basis. That's some of the things I remember doing, where almost every day I logged in on that CLI. So this is more what I like to consider that traditional networking route. And then as we look at the modern engineer, the more involved network engineer, a lot of times with this type of position, you'll see where the job description may be asking for experience with software-defined networking, some automation experience using Python or Ansible, also some API experience, and also some cloud and scripting experience. So a lot of times this is newer technologies, and most of the time when I do see these job descriptions, they're coming from the large organizations. So if you're looking at a profit company, a for-profit company, a lot of times they're looking for someone with this access, because a lot of times those larger organizations, they are some of the first ones that have the funds to implement these newer technologies. So to me, it creates a divide in the networking world, to where, okay, you got that traditional networking, then you got that more where using better technology and things like that, where still there's a use case for both of them, but it just depends on the organization you're applying to, and then the organization where you may be already at. So when it comes to this type of engineer, they may not be necessarily logging in on the CLI every day. So a lot of times this type of engineer, their organization most likely has tools in place or different pieces of software applications that they've implemented, something like maybe a Cisco DNA center, to where instead of logging in on that CLI, they're able to go to this application to start troubleshooting the different issues that's going on the network. So the next thing I like to look at is some benefits of knowing Python and networking. So the first benefit is automation. So you can save time by automating repetitive tasks. So the first thing I think about here is your configuration changes. So basically being able to make your configurations more efficient, to where if I configure a device and you configure a device, we shouldn't be able to tell that two different people configured those devices. So that's what knowing some Python is going to help you to do. And also it's going to be beneficial to your team that you own too, because any kind of little repetitive task that they may have, they can have you come up with a script. That way they don't have to worry about doing that repetitive task. So the first benefit of Python and networking, of course, is automation. And then the next thing, of course, is going to give you a career advantage. So like I said, Python and coding is pretty much touching every realm of the IT infrastructure. So basically, where years ago, I never would have even thought about being able to use code within networking. But now it's here, it's used daily. So it's going to help your career out a lot, because you're going to be more versatile. You're going to be more marketable. So a lot of times, like I said, even if it was a traditional networking job description that may not even ask for any Python experience, basically by you having Python experience, it could still increase you getting that certain position, because a lot of people know how valuable knowing Python is, because you're able to create these scripts. You're able to make the workday more efficient. You're able to come up with different things that's needed to help out your organization. So I think this will give you a career advantage of learning Python. And then as well as it's going to help you out within your networking career.